our cedar plank panels that are going to be the ceiling panels in our 1997 Dodge Ram B2500 camper van build. And we have them all placed out here. I think I'm going to get them covered with some polyurethane and let that start to dry, and then I'm going to start planning out how I'm going to exactly do the roof. Now that we have our cedar planks that we're going to be using as the ceiling, they're all polyed up. They look really nice, and they're going to be sealed from any moisture. That's the main purpose of it. I like the natural wood look, but we want to seal the wood up so nothing warps or grows anything weird in my van. So we're going to be using these small bronze wood screws. They're number 6 and they're 3/4 inch. And what we'll do is we'll drill one pilot hole, just one small pilot hole, and then we'll be using the impact driver to slowly drive the screw, and that'll hold the plank up. The reason I like to use these small little 3/4 inch screws is, well, one, I don't have an air compressor, so I can't use a brad nailer or anything like that, but there's a reason why I haven't gone out and bought one for this specific job. That is, I do want one, but if we need to take down the ceiling, we could easily just use a Phillips head screwdriver or an impact driver, and we could take out all the screws, pull the entire ceiling down, check for mold or any type of mildew, that sort of thing. And if we need to replace any wires for the lights, it's all accessible with just one Phillips head screwdriver. So that's why we like the Phillips head short little wood screws to put up our ceiling. This is the cedar plank that I chose for the first one. I like to just pick my very favorite for the very first one, and that kind of sets the mood for the rest of the ceiling. The first one is always the very hardest because we want it to be straight, and like always, we're handling this situation completely alone. Now that we have this first plank secure up on the ceiling, this is going to be kind of like our starting template. We know we have it straight, so we'll just work from there. So now what we need to do is get another one of these cedar planks, measure out where we want the LED puck lights to live, and then we'll put that board in, test fit it, then we'll put the puck lights in it, and we're going to attempt to start wiring it all together. Probably need to watch a little bit of YouTube University to figure that out, but so far so good. So these are the little LED lights that we got off of Amazon. Link will be in the description below. And we measured about a foot from the very front of the ceiling and 1.75 inches. That is the exact center point. And what we'll need to do now is maybe make a little trace of that onto cardboard, find the center hole of that, and then start punching these holes. Now that we have a little 2 1/4 inch circle, now we can align these 2 holes, trace a rough 2 1/4 inch circle, and cut that out with the jigsaw. These little spring-loaded LED lights just sit right in here, and they pull tight. That is what it's gonna look like. Then in the back, you got the business end of everything. So we'll do that again at the 3-foot mark and then the 6-foot mark, and then we'll go test fit this. And this board is complete. We decided to go with 1 foot, then 4 foot, and then 7 foot. So there's a foot on each end, and then this is directly in the very center of the board. So we successfully got all of the puck lights wired up first go. They look awesome. I got the warm white color. We'll give you a better diagram of how we wired up these puck lights, just so you have a simple, straightforward diagram that you can reference when you're doing this on your build. We have all the puck lights wired up correctly. They worked well. We were pretty generous about the amount of wire we used. If we need extra, we need to trim it, we need to change the lights, we have plenty of extra wire. So what we'll do is just tuck this up underneath here and tape it as well to the insulation, and we'll continue on placing our cedar planks. Last night the build became real when I plugged these puck lights into my tiny little jump starter battery just to get a 12-volt current running through it to see if they worked. It looked awesome in here. It was the perfect amount of warm, cozy light. And that's 6 puck lights in a relatively small van. It's so perfect. Getting excited. I spent the day yesterday putting up the rest of the tongue and groove, making sure everything was straight and very secure. I made sure to be extremely detailed and even ripped down 1/2-inch pieces to finish off the ceiling so there's no gaps at all this time. While I was doing that, I was also painting the fan shroud. If you remember from the fan installation video, we actually received a broken fan shroud, and Max Air sent out an entire fan for us. We just swapped the shroud out and sent back the other fan. And then once we had the ceiling in, we measured how much we needed to cut off of the fan shroud, and we painted it a matte black. And this looks so good. It really complements the black LED puck lights, and I think that ties it together really well. If this fan shroud was white, which it usually is, it would just be sticking out, and I think that just really flows with the rest of the interior. Last night we also decided on the rest of the build plans, and essentially what we have coming in the mail is one more 4-AUG cable set to finish up our electrical system. We have a 12-volt pump, a 12-volt water pump to hook up to our sink. We have 2 7-gallon jugs, one to act as fresh water, one to be a gray water tank. We have a black sink, which is going to look really cool, as well as a black faucet. And this is a faucet that has an extendable hose on it. The sink is going to be located somewhere in this area, and with the extendable faucet on the sink, we'll be able to spray it outdoors. So you could do a little backcountry shower or spray the dog off, clean off muddy boots, that sort of thing. So that's my idea behind the extendable sink and the placement right there. Now, we've been looking for a 12-volt cooler, and I think that I've decided on not using a 12-volt cooler. I'm going to try to wire up the good old mini fridge. Now, this is a relatively small mini fridge, and I think it won't really affect our 200 amp hour battery too much. We'll do some tests before we actually install it into the van, but I think this is going to be our best option. I don't really want to spend the money on a 12-volt fridge. So I have a 1000 watt inverter, and I don't plan on using any other household items, so that'll probably be dedicated to the refrigerator. This is where our solar cables come down through the roof, and this is where our battery will be. So what we had to do was run a wire up through the wall over this back area, down and around where we meet up with our dimmer switch. So we're gonna go ahead and wire up our dimmer switch to our power cord. Then we're just gonna connect those power cables to a jumper battery just to see if the dimmer switch works. I am by no means an electrician, so I'm waiting to give you advice and kind of explain how I'm doing things until I know it's up and working and everything's correct and safe. I'm sure there's a lot of videos on YouTube of first timers wiring up their systems and they're kind of learning with you, but I think electric is something that's pretty serious and it could cause some incredible damage like a fire to your build. So I'm kind of just figuring everything out. I'm not recording everything that I'm doing because at the end of my build, I could go back and really draw diagrams and explain things a little bit more thoroughly once I grasp the concept myself. So we have the positive and negative hooked up to a jumper battery, and we're gonna go ahead and test out our Ace Goo little dimmer switch we got with the lights. Let's see. And it works. That's awesome. That is awesome. Not only does it look great, but it really, really brightens up the area. Wow.